Thank you all for being here. My apologies if I feel like I'm a little bit discombobulated. It's been a long drive. But thank you. Let's get going. Next slide. All right. So, as you know, immigration policies and processes are changing. I want to say almost hourly these days, right? So we want to let you know that the information that we are providing is only valid as of today, right? So as of February 2nd. Another thing is we now suggest everybody to please seek consult with an immigration attorney, but especially do so if you are um, if you are evaluating your individual situation, if you are filing any forms either before USCIS or before the immigration court, any motions, any applications before the court, before signing any immigration-related document, especially ones that are being forced down by our Department of Homeland Security, and very importantly, before making any decisions about staying or leaving the United States. What are we going to talk about today? Very little bit about NERP. No, did I introduce myself? Yes, I was introduced. A little bit about NERP. We are going to have a Know Your Rights presentation, but it's a very truncated version of our Know Your Rights presentation. If you want a much more detailed version of that, we have it on our website, so please visit our website. We are going to concentrate more on emergency preparedness before, during, and after an arrest, both for the impacted person and for their friends and community. And then, of course, a list of resources. All right, so NERP. For those of you who do not know about us, please visit our website. NERP is the only a immigration legal service provider that provides services statewide. We have been around for 41 years now. Our mission is to advance and defend the rights of the immigrant community. We do it in 3 different ways. The first way, what we call our bread and butter, is through direct legal services. So what we want to do the most is assist individuals in their immigration cases, either before USCIS or before the immigration court, from the beginning of the case to the end of the case, right? That is what we do. That is what we do most. We also do impact litigation, which means that we sue the government when the government tries to violate the rights of our community. And we do advocacy and outreach efforts like what we are doing today. That is our website. We have 4 different offices. We have 2 offices in Western Washington and 2 in Eastern Washington. Our Granger office is very close to Yakima in our Eastern Washington. Our Tacoma office in Western Washington actually got its start when the detention center opened, right? And it has now expanded. So if you have community members who are detained, you want to communicate with our Tacoma office. And then we have our Seattle and our Wenatchee offices as well that do all types of immigration relief for. Thank you. All right, let's do a brief Know Your Rights presentation. Okay, so when we are talking about constitutional right, which is what we're talking about in this particular slide, we are talking about an individual's 4th Amendment right and an individual's 5th Amendment rights, right? The individual's 5th Amendment right is the right to remain silent. This right carries with you no matter where you are. It carries with you in public, it carries with you in private, it doesn't matter what status you have. Everybody here in the United States has the right to remain silent and not say something against themselves. The 4th Amendment right is the right against being unreasonably stopped, searched, and or arrested, right? This is the right that we are going to deal with a lot. One of my colleagues has a saying about the rights that we talk about, right, such as your Fourth and your Fifth Amendment rights, and the reality on the ground, right? We recognize that, oh, yes, you have the right to remain silent. We are going to talk about the right to unreasonable searches and seizures. So this is a constitutional right, right? We recognize this, and we also recognize that it is being violated on a daily basis. So your Fourth Amendment right is strongest when there is an expectation of privacy, right? So in your home, you have an expectation of privacy, hence your Fourth Amendment right is very strong, right? In the non-public areas of your work, there is an expectation of privacy because that area is not open to the public, right? So you have an expectation of privacy, and the reason we are discussing this is, the next slide, is what does the government need in order to enter and arrest somebody in a private area, right? Either your home. Just so you know, we will gladly provide these slides also, and they will be on our website. So there are two kinds of warrants available. One warrant is a judicial warrant. A judicial warrant is signed by a judge. It says the name of the court, right? The areas to be searched or the person to be arrested, right? The other one is an administrative warrant. An administrative warrant is a DHS, Department of Homeland Security issued warrant, right? So a DHS warrant that looks something like this does not give any agent the right to enter a private area, be that somebody's house, home, be that the private area of where you work, right? A judicial warrant, however, does. Now, even though we say, not that we say, even though it is true, it is a fact that a person needs, an agent needs a judicial warrant to enter a private area. It recently came out, like I think last week, there was a leaked ICE memorandum saying that, hey, listen, for those individuals who actually have a final order of removal, the department's agents can enter a house with use of force with just an administrative warrant. They do not need a judicial warrant. This is a leaked memo. It was not supposed to come out, right? But it is out, so now we know. And now we know how ICE agents feel so emboldened, right, by knocking the doors and getting inside the house. There was an internal memo saying that you can do this. So they're doing it. However, just because there is this memo out doesn't mean that the Fourth Amendment does not apply, right? They do not get to trample on our Fourth Amendment rights. And we strongly urged our community members to continue exercising their Fourth Amendment rights and documenting violations of it. All right, so this is just like to give you a quick map, a cheat sheet of what do you need to enter which space, right? So in the home, there should be a judicial warrant, and please forgive me, I failed to mention to say, a judicial warrant or consent, right? So, either the agents are trying to come to my house, either they have a judicial warrant, or I just open the door and say, please, come on in, right? Otherwise, they cannot enter. At work and church, hospitals, schools, etc., where there are both public areas and private areas, right? They can enter the public areas because anybody can enter. For private areas, they do need a judicial warrant. And for in the car or your person, cars are funky a little bit just because inside a car, is a private area, right? It's inside your car. But the car is on a public road, right? So they can stop you and ask for your license. They generally ask for license, registration, and proof of insurance, but they really want to see your license, right? They can ask for a license, and they can arrest if they have probable cause, reasonable suspicion. Next, please. All right. So, who can be detained by the department? People who enter the United States without inspection, so people who cross the border. People who are present in the United States without current status, right, legal status. So these could be people who, for example, let's say they entered the United States on a visitor's visa, right, or on a student visa, and that visa has since lapsed. Or they were here and they had temporary protected status. We will talk about that in a bit. And that status has since expired. Individuals who have had run-ins with the law. So for lawful permanent residents, they can get arrested, right, if they commit certain types of crimes, but they have a right to appear before an immigration judge. Their status cannot just be taken away, right? But for individuals without any status, they can get detained and, depending on the facts of the case, possibly removed. And of course, people who have a final order of removal can be detained. So those were some ways that DHS could arrest and detain individuals. These are some other ways. And this information has come to us more recently. So we now know, as of a few weeks ago, that TSA, the Transportation Security Administration, where you go through the security, TSA is sharing information of on their passenger list with the Department of Homeland Security. We also know that the federal government is requiring agencies that assist in providing Medicaid to individuals in state to actually gather information. So people who receive Medicaid are sharing their information with the federal government. And driver data. So they're getting driver data in two different ways. One is by, Flock is the name of the company that has the automatic license plate reader and is sharing information. And the other one is federal government's access to Department of Licensing information, to get information from them. So two different ways. All right. Rights of impacted person. A person generally has the right to a hearing before an immigration judge. There are three exceptions. One is if the person is subject to expedited removal. Do you all know what that means? Are you all with me?
Yep, for sure.
All right. So expedited removal is a law that says, listen, if an agent, most likely Customs and Border Protection, CBP, arrests an individual within 14 days of their entry and within 100 miles of the border, that person is subject to expedited removal, right? They don't need to go through all the due process protections. Now, the Trump administration tried to expand the scope of expedited removal by saying, oh, no, not 14 days, 2 years of entry. This was for a while a thing, right? So people were saying, hey, listen, so should we carry documents showing that we have been here for 2 years or not, right? But there was a lawsuit that is on hold. We are back to 14 days, 100 miles, right? Just remember that, 14 days, 100 miles. That's expedited removal. Also remember that individuals in expedited removal proceedings can still apply for asylum. They should just keep repeating to the official who is arresting them that they're afraid to return to their home country. Final order of deportation, a person who is subject to final order of deportation does not have the right necessarily to appear before an immigration judge, although they also can claim fear. And visa waiver, right? So these are for individuals who come from countries where they do not need an visa. They do not need a visa to enter the United States, right? Canada, for example. They do not have a right to go before an immigration judge. So in court, a person generally does not have a right to a government-appointed attorney. This is really horrible just because, as you can imagine, being in front of an immigration law is one of the most complex areas of law, right? So having to appear before an immigration judge and defending your case by yourself is really a violation of due process, if you ask me. But anyway, so a person generally does not have a right to a government-appointed attorney. However, there are exceptions for minors, juvenile cases, and for individuals who have mental health incapacitation problem. There is a whole different process for those individuals to go through. Many people present themselves. I think in Washington State at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, we are running at like 70% on the individuals who appear before an immigration judge are representing themselves. And sorry, just one side. The difference between when an individual has an attorney and when they don't is 3-to-1. So the individuals has 3 times more chances to win their case if they have an advocate present. So it makes a huge difference, is all I'm saying. So either the person can afford an attorney and they will get one, hire one, or there will be organizations such as NERP who may be able to assist. As we said, DHS cannot take the lawful permanent residency, the green card, right, of an individual away without a court proceedings. Individuals should not sign anything. And there are some temporary statuses that protect against deportation, like, DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival, actually temporary protection status, and then one can file for certain types of applications as well. These are all the other types, well, not all, forgive me, some of the other types of applications that individuals can file before an immigration court. So an individual can submit an application for asylum if they fear returning to their home country because they fear being persecuted by either the government of the country or a group or an organization that the government cannot or will not intervene on behalf of. Individuals can apply for cancellation of removal. Each of these applications are very complicated, but we have linked to them so you can actually get more information. Special immigrant juvenile classification is for youth whose parents, either one or both, have neglected them, abused them, or unable to provide for them, right? That's a very special status for people under 21 in Washington State. And then we have Violence Against Women's Act, a law that was passed, if I'm not mistaken, in 1992. And has been renewed ever since. Although it says violence against women, it is not just women that it protects everybody. And then we have T visas for victims of human trafficking. The human trafficking has to be based either on sex or labor. And U visas are visas available for victims of certain type of crimes, not all crimes, right? Domestic violence is one of them. Aggravated assault is another one of them. But just so you know, for example, for a person who qualifies for a U visa application, from filing until obtaining the actual U visa, these days it is taking 7 to 9 years. So people are in like limbo status during this process. Rights of the impacted parents who are being detained. This is very important, and we are going to talk about this in the next few slides as well. So a parent has the right to make decisions about their children. They have a right to be kept near their children, or have the right to let somebody take over care of the child if the parent feels that they're being removed. The parent have the right to help, to ask for help from designated workers in detention center to make decisions for the child, like right to be part of the child's welfare. And the parent, of course, has the right to make the choice of where the child will live, right? Either with them, or they will, if they're returning back to their home country, the child will stay here and the parent will return, or the child will return with the parent to their home country. You can get more information from CLASP. All right, emergency preparedness. I'm sorry, I know I'm running through this, but there's so much to cover. But I'm around afterward if you all have questions. Okay, so immigration family safety planning. This is one of the most important things that we are telling folks to engage in. And if you are all members of a neighborhood organization, a community organization, please, please, please get the word out that actually doing safety planning is really important. So what does it mean? It means that you choose, the person chooses a caregiver or an agent to act for the best interest of their child, right? And they know what to do with the important documentation. So, for example, there are birth certificates, there are passports, there are social security cards, list of contact information, and where to keep the documents, right? So please keep the originals in a safe place. Carry a copy with you. So before any interaction with DHS, documents that you should keep, you should know where they are and you should keep at home, are IDs and passports, birth certificates, marriage certificates, medical documents, immigration documents, and proof of power of attorney, right? Carry green card, but just by the way, carrying your green card is actually mandated by law. People have to carry their green cards with them. State driver's license and ILRC red cards. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say ILRC red cards? No? Ehsan, are you here? No. My colleague is here and we have ILRC red cards. It's Know Your Rights cards that we will provide. Do not carry foreign documents. Why do we say that? Why do we say don't carry foreign documents? It's not a rhetorical question. Somebody tell me. Okay.
It's an excuse to send them back, like to say you're obviously you're not.
There you go. We are giving them the document that shows where we are from, right? So we don't want to do that. So don't carry foreign documents. Definitely, definitely, definitely do not carry false documents and do not provide false documents. One of the problems is that for very valid reasons, people use social securities or so forth and so on to work, to live, right? But claiming to be a US citizen bars people from almost all forms of immigration relief, period. So please do not carry false documents and do not give any false statements. All right. Uh, so what do we mean? By the way, LCYC, Legal Counsel for Youth and Children, has an awesome website that goes through family planning and what you need to do very well, step by step. So please go and visit LCYC's website. I believe we had the webpage in our previous slide. Oh, we have it. It's now a list of resources. Thank you. Okay, so identify an emergency contact person. We want this emergency contact person, preferably, to be somebody who is documented, right? Why is that? Because this person then needs to be acting on your behalf, and they may have to deal with immigration officials, right? So we don't want to place this person in additional risk, right? But there are many people who either do not have or do not feel comfortable asking somebody who is documented to become their emergency contact person. In those cases, it is fine to have an undocumented contact person, but they need to know the risks of what they are taking on, right? Plan with them in case of detention. So what happens? What happens to the kids? What happens to the house? What happens to your finances? What happens to the car? What happens to the bill? I mean, plan with that person. And that person should know your A number, your country of origin, your name, and your birthday. The reason we say that is that person is going to need to find you. We're going to talk about it in a few slides. And they need this information in order to be able to find you. Have contact information of a trusted attorney. This is true. It's very helpful. If you cannot, I mean, people generally not people. I may have trouble remembering more than one phone number. Then it would be very helpful to have a list of phone numbers with your trusted person and just remember the name and phone number of the trusted person. Memorize one phone number in case of an emergency. And that emergency contact should also know to either call NERP or private attorneys. And you can find a list of private attorneys on AILA's website, ailalawyer.com. All right. Many nonprofit, and we are hearing from a lot of our partner agencies, social service providers, and other caregivers who fear, right, what happens if ICE comes to their office or their location, right, like housing providers, for example. NERP does have an advisory on our website. So if that is the case for any of you or the communities that you live in, please check out NERP's advisory. But the gist of that advisory is any social service provider or community org should have a plan in place of what to do if ICE comes to the door. They should not allow ICE agents in, especially without a judicial warrant. And they should train their staff that only certain staff members can communicate with ICE and what that communication actually entails. All right, so that was pre-communication, right? Pre-interaction with DHS. Now we are going to talk about during an ICE arrest. So for the person who is being arrested, what is most important is that they should not arrest or run. I mean, we all of us have seen it on the news, right? What happens when the person tries to resist or run away? Do not give false information. Do not answer any questions about somebody's immigration status, where they were born, right? Or any prior interaction with law enforcement, like any criminal background. If arrested, ask why the person is being arrested. Ask for the arresting agent's identifying information. Good luck with that. This is another one of those, rights versus reality things. But it is important for us to exercise our rights, right? So ask for the identifying information. Ask where the person is being taken. It is Northwest Immigration Processing Center, right, in Tacoma, but not always. Let the agents know, oh, this is very important. Again, it's rights versus reality, but the person should announce loudly if they have any medical condition or if they need any medication, and they should do that as soon as possible. Request, demand, I would say, to make a phone call to your attorney or to your trusted person, right, who can then start the, what do you call it, the call tree, like calling everybody on your behalf. And don't sign anything and request to speak to an attorney. All right, so what can the community do? Gather information. When did this happen? Where did this happen? Who was there? Who was taken? How many people were taken? How many agents were present? Ask the community member being detained if they wish for you, the community, right, to contact any person on their behalf. Record agents' interactions with the community. So this is one of those, right, please keep a safe distance. Do not agitate officers. It doesn't work, and not just for the community. What we are most concerned about is what effect this may have on the impacted person or persons, right? And all of those people who are actually being arrested when the officers are even more agitated, right? So do record, but do record from a distance. And do not impede, right? Don't get in between an officer and the person being arrested. Don't engage in conduct that may endanger the community. And do try to get identifying information. Rights versus reality, yeah. Post-arrest. So as I said, generally speaking, people are taken to NWIPC, but not always, right? And there are times, but NWIPC no longer has bed space. It's full. So people are being sent to other detention centers, right? We are hearing that a lot of individuals are actually being sent down to Texas. We think that for various reasons, besides availability of space, one of them being it's much more difficult to get a bond hearing in Texas than it is in Washington, where we have a Ninth Circuit ruling. There are also times that family members are kept in various hotels and motels for a short period of time because Tacoma cannot handle a family unit. So many community members are eligible for bond. Just because a person is eligible doesn't mean that they're going to get it, right? But many people are eligible for bond. What do they need to prove? They need to prove that they are not a flight risk, that they're not going to escape, they're going to show up for their future hearings, that they are not a danger to community, and some previous criminal arrest and or convictions may be considered strongly, and that they are not an applicant for admission. So what this means is that they were not arrested at the border and brought to the detention center, right? Now, this area of law has been, well, DHS is really trying to change this area of law, right? Because before it used to be that the only people who were not allowed to request a bond were people who were these three, right? But now the department is saying, no, we think anyone who crossed the border at any point in the past, so a person could have been living here for 20 years, right? If they're arrested, they are not bond eligible. They're placing them in the same shoe as a person who just arrived, right? Which is horrible, and there are lots of lawsuits. Washington has its own lawsuit. Other jurisdictions have its own lawsuit, but this is an evolving area of law. Thank you. Okay. Another thing is that so person gets detained, right? There's bond proceedings, and then there are removal proceedings. These two proceedings are separate from each other. They are not the same, right? So when the person is placed in removal proceedings, their case is docketed for what we call a master calendar hearing. This is sort of like the indictment phase, right? When you first go to court, how do you plead, blah, blah, blah. This is the first one, right? And then if the person wishes to apply for any relief from removal, right? So remember how we were talking about asylum, cancellation of removal, all these other forms of relief. Now is the time to discuss this. And then the case is set for an individual calendar hearing or a trial. And besides that, so, bond hearing, separate proceeding. Regardless of what happens at the bond hearing, the person can still pursue relief, right? And if the person does not have any form of relief available, then there is the possibility of an order of voluntary departure or a removal order. One thing, we haven't seen it as much this time as we did during Trump 1.0, is that ICE agents would go to the detained community members and would tell them that, hey, listen, why don't you just sign this form? It's nothing, it's for your benefit. And people were signing their own deportation orders. And then right after that, they would actually deport them. Next one. Okay, so how do you find a detained community member? You go to Locator, ICE's Locator. That's the website. And you can use it by a person's A number, which is a 9-digit number. I'm so sorry. You can also visit NERP for additional information. Very importantly, and this is especially true these days because people rightly, absolutely rightly, are so afraid of going to their hearings before an immigration judge, going to their appointments with USCIS, going for ICE check-ins, right? All of these are really important for people to do. Keeping their address updated with the USCIS or immigration court. These are really, really, really important things to do. The reason for that is, for one thing, if you have an ICE check-in and you don't show up, they'll just come to the house, And if you don't show up to immigration court, the judge would just order you removed. So it is not to a person's benefit to not show up, for the most part. But there are organizations and agencies that provide accompaniment, so they will go with the individual in case the individual fears going to either the court or some kind of check-in by themselves. Okay, thank you. If you want to contact NERP's Tacoma office to see if an individual is detained, this is the information that we require. Full name, A number, date of birth, country of birth, court date, and you know how to get it because of, oh shoot, can you go back to the previous slide for a second, sorry. Okay, sorry. The EOIR's website provides you with your next hearing date. So if you go there and punch in the person's A number and their country of birth, they will let you know when the next hearing is. Sorry, okay. And any medical, dental, or physical needs. You can also leave a voicemail. Ha! Resources. I did it. Resources. Okay, this is a list. This is not by any means comprehensive, but this is a list of resources that we have prepared. I'm sure you all have your own resources. Many of these organizations provide accompaniment, provide know your rights, provide, like LCYC provides family planning, right? And for families, these are the organizations that are going to be helpful. For everybody, this is NERP. If you want to stay up to date, please join our monthly webinar and also our mailing list. All right, I am out of time, but I can hang around and answer questions if anybody has any questions. Thank you. I know I was talking too fast. I always. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No. Yes. Thank you. It's not a clapping thing, you know. It's every time I do these things, I just feel depressed. But oh, sorry.
So I'll try to work this right, but I know you mentioned that potentially having a mental health condition can help prevent, I'm not sure, detention or being deported. Or what exactly it is that you mentioned?
That's not okay. That is not quite it, right? But if you remember, I was talking about the right to counsel, right? So in immigration proceedings, there is no right to counsel, right? Although there really should be a right to counsel. But so NERP sued the departments and EOIR saying that, hey, listen, there are certain individuals who are not mentally capable, who are not aware enough, do not know what's going on in these proceedings, right? And hence, it is a violation of their due process, right, if they are not provided counsel or additional protections.
Okay, and I guess my question is what extent or what type of mental discapacities?
So it is very fluid. It is ultimately the judge who makes the decision, right? But what there is that there is a special hearing to establish whether or not the individual actually has capacity to understand what is happening with their case and to be able to present a defense. Yeah. Booked up.
Thank you for your presentation, Roger. I'm just wondering, how are you all doing it? What's it looking like these days? All of your workload, and especially because you're saying that your chances are improved by 75% by having an attorney. Then what's your capacity looking like, and where are people going if NERC is full?
Thank you for that. So NERP is very, very, very lucky in that we have the community support, right? And we have the states and the cities and the county support, right, in doing our work. So we feel very fortunate in that way. But the gist of it is that the need for our resources is so much greater than our capacity, right? So we do still try to provide as much direct legal services, this means from beginning to end, right, as we possibly can. But because we know we can't always, we do a lot of limited services. You know what I mean? So we try to ensure the immediate safety of an individual and then deal with the next step, right? But just so you will not get arrested or removed today or the next week or a month, and then we will deal with the next phase of this. We also have awesome partnerships, you know, with other agencies and collaborators who assist us. There are other awesome organizations that also do immigrant rights work. So they are also assisting. But yeah, I mean, I can clearly, we are not, across Washington, all of us combined, we are not meeting the need. That is a fact. Yeah. Thank you for making me even more depressed book.
Buenas tardes, gracias por la presentación, muy interesante. Yo trabajo para una organización no lucrativa y tenemos clientes que nos llaman, que tienen audiencia, tienen corte y tienen miedo a ir a la corte. ¿Hay una posibilidad que se pueda hacer la audiencia virtual o no?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your presentation. It's very interesting. I have a question. I work with nonprofit organizations, and we receive many calls from people regarding going to hearings, and they are afraid of going to the hearings. And my question is there an ability to participate in hearings virtually?
You know, wouldn't you just think that that is humane and right? Right? Especially for individuals who have to drive God knows how long to come to a 2-minute proceedings. For the most part, during COVID, sure, this was easy, remember? But for the most part, attorneys can appear virtually. But most of the judges want the individual, they call it the respondents, right? The people who have to appear before the immigration judge, they want them to appear in person. It is very, very rare that a judge will grant a motion to appear virtually or telephonically. It's not, it has happened. I don't want to say it never happens, right? The person can submit a motion, but I just want to make sure that it's clear that in over 95% of those instances, the judge will deny the motion and require that the person appear in person. Just to make things difficult. I mean, you know, why not? All right, any other questions? Thank you for your question, though. I'm sorry I don't have any good news.